Did you know that some of the most iconic songs in rock history actually mean the exact opposite of what you think? There is a pattern in music that keeps repeating itself. A catchy chorus takes off, a melody becomes inescapable, and a whole generation builds an emotional connection to a track based on something completely different from what the writer intended. Sometimes the gap between reality and popular understanding is small, but then there are the songs on this list where the misunderstanding is so total and so stubbornly persistent that the artists themselves spent decades pointing at their own work, begging people to listen to the lyrics, while the world cheerfully ignored them. Because in rock history, melody travels faster than meaning. Here are the songs everyone got completely wrong, and the real stories behind them. Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. The scale of this misunderstanding is crazy when you actually look at the lyrics. When it came out in 1984, people instantly treated it like a massive patriotic anthem, the kind of track you blast at a 4th of July barbecue. Ronald Reagan's campaign team got so caught up in that huge chorus that they even tried to use it as their official election theme, with Reagan praising Springsteen's message of hope at a big rally.
America's future rests in 1,000 dreams inside your hearts. It rests in the message of hope in songs of a man so many young Americans admire, New Jersey's own Bruce Springsteen.
The problem? The song is actually a heartbreaking protest track about how America abandoned its Vietnam veterans. Springsteen wrote it after hanging out with guys who came home from the war only to realize their country had completely moved on without them. If you look past that roaring chorus, the verses tell a brutal story. The main character gets drafted just to avoid prison time, gets shipped off to Vietnam, and watches his brother die. When he comes back home, he tries to get his old factory job back, but there is nothing available. He checks in with the Veterans Affairs office and gets nothing there either. He ends up a decade down the road with absolutely nowhere to go. So when Springsteen screams "Born in the USA," it isn't a shout of pride. It's the desperate cry of someone who has nothing left except the literal fact of where he was born. Reagan's speechwriters had apparently never listened past the chorus, which is a pretty huge oversight considering the verses make the point so clearly. Springsteen later joked about the whole thing, telling a crowd in 1995 that since the mix-up made him a ton of money, his family was pretty grateful to everyone who missed the point.
When I wrote that song, I said, hey, no, it's like that flag, that's mine too. And that experience is not the same experience that you're talking about and that's being put forth as the American experience. You know, those values aren't particularly the same value.
Still, the irony is pretty heavy. A song explicitly criticizing how America treated its veterans was used as a political hype track by the exact administration cutting their benefits. Next up is "Every Breath You Take" by the Police. For over 40 years, people have played this track at weddings, used it in romantic movie scenes, and dedicated it to partners on Valentine's Day. It is treated like the ultimate expression of love and devotion. It hit #1 globally, and it is officially one of the most performed songs in radio history. But Sting, the man who actually wrote it, calls it sinister and ugly. Sting has explained in tons of interviews that the song is actually about surveillance, control, and the creepy mind of an obsessive stalker.
It seems at first like a very romantic, kind of seductive song, which is what I initially intended it to be. But then when you listen to it, you realize there's a compulsion behind it, to the point of obsession where it becomes quite sinister.
He told the BBC directly that he finds the track very sinister and that people completely misread it as a gentle love song when it is the exact opposite. He was thinking about Big Brother and control systems when he wrote it.
The song that did have that position before that was "You've Lost That Loving Feeling" by the Righteous Brothers. Now, that's one of my favorite songs of all time.
And even he was surprised by how dark the vibe felt once it was recorded. So why did everyone miss the point? It all comes down to the mix of the smooth melody and the dark words. Sting's vocals are incredibly soft. The guitar line is beautiful, and the whole track feels calm and intimate. Your ears tell you it is a sweet song, but the actual lyrics tell a completely different story. Think about lines like "Every breath you take, every move you make, I'll be watching you." When you read those words slowly, there is no romance there. It is straight up surveillance. The speaker is tracking every single step, and the person being watched has zero privacy left. Because of this, people regularly use it as their first dance at weddings. It means a ceremony meant to celebrate a loving partnership is soundtracked by a song about possessiveness and control. Sting has always found this pretty confusing, and he is genuinely surprised that this creepy track became a legendary romance song. Then we have Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by the Beatles. The rumor behind this track is a piece of pop culture myth that just refuses to die. The main reason it sticks around is because the real story sounds almost too convenient, even though multiple witnesses have backed it up for decades. The song came out in 1967 on the Sgt. Pepper album, and people noticed almost immediately that the first letters of the title spelled out LSD. Since the album dropped at the peak of the psychedelic hippie movement, the band was openly associated with drugs, and the lyrics described a trippy world with tangerine trees and marshmallow skies. Everyone assumed it was a secret drug code, but John Lennon denied it for the rest of his life. He said he had absolutely no idea the initials spelled LSD until someone pointed it out.
This is the truth. My son came home with a drawing and showed me this strange-looking woman flying around. I said, "What is it?" He said, "It's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." And I thought, that's beautiful. I immediately wrote a song about it. The song had gone out, the whole album had been published, and somebody noticed that the letters spelt out LSD. And I had no idea about it. And of course, after that, I was checking all the songs to see what the letters spelled out. They didn't spell out anything, none of the others, and it wasn't about that at all. You know?
After the record was already out, the story he told from day one was that his 4-year-old son, Julian, came home from nursery school with a painting of his classmate, a girl named Lucy O'Donnell. When Julian showed it to his dad, he called it Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Lennon thought the phrase was beautiful and wrote a song about it right away. This innocent explanation is actually way more believable than the drug rumor when you look at the facts. Ringo Starr confirmed he was right there in the room when Julian brought the drawing home. John's wife at the time, Cynthia Lennon, remembered the exact same moment. Julian himself has talked about the painting his entire adult life. On top of that, the real Lucy O'Donnell was tracked down and interviewed before she passed away from lupus in 2009. Julian even reconnected with her back then and sent her gardening tools because she mentioned it was her favorite hobby. That is a lot of specific detail for a fake cover story. Plus, Lennon was always completely honest about his drug songs. He openly admitted that tracks like Tomorrow Never Knows were about his experiences with LSD, and he wrote Cold Turkey as a brutal description of heroin withdrawal. It makes no sense that he would hide the meaning of this one specific song while being totally transparent about all the others. The constant disbelief just frustrated him. He once asked a TV audience why anyone would even bother to look at the first letters of a song title. Still, the world kept right on believing the myth anyway. And finally, we have Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival. This track is in a really bizarre spot. People constantly play it as a patriotic anthem, a pro-military anthem, and a general celebration of American pride at sporting events and political rallies. The huge issue with all of that is the song was actually written to blast the exact upper-class politicians who love to use it. John Fogerty wrote the track in 1969 and has spent his whole life explaining it.
Of course, when I wrote it, it was 1969, right in the middle of the Nixon administration, and the Vietnam War, of course, was raging, and there was still a draft in America, so all of that stuff. And I also had watched while privileged families kept their kids out of the draft.
He was furious at a system where rich, well-connected kids could easily skip out on the Vietnam War, while working-class guys with no options were drafted and sent to die. The breaking point for him was seeing a newspaper announcement about the engagement between Julie Nixon, the president's daughter, and David Eisenhower, the grandson of President Eisenhower. Fogerty looked at that news and immediately thought about the ordinary guys who had absolutely no political connections to protect them.
Of course, this was written in the latter part of 1969. By now, the Vietnam War is certainly the #1 story on the news every single night, and the Nixon administration is running along with their policies. And I was an angry young man who had served in the military and had kind of seen the situation from that side of it.
The very first line says, "Some folks are born made to wave the flag."
Some folks are born made to wave the flag.
Right from the start, the song attacks inherited privilege. It challenges the myth that everyone sacrifices equally during wartime. The narrator is explicitly not one of the fortunate. He is the guy sent to the front lines precisely because his family lacks the money and the famous last name to keep him safe at home. Rich kids and sons of senators are the villains of this story, not the heroes. Even though the lyrics are completely straightforward, the track has taken on a second life as a background song for the exact culture it was written to criticize. Fogerty has talked about this with a mix of frustration and dark humor. At one point, the song was even used in a TV commercial for military recruitment, which Fogerty had to publicly fight against. The gap between what the track actually says and what people think it says is one of the wildest examples of selective listening in rock history. In the end, the reason these huge misunderstandings happen to all four of these tracks comes down to a simple truth. Melody travels faster than meaning. When a chorus sounds triumphant, a vocal sounds romantic, or a beat sounds full of pride, those surface-level elements hit our ears way before the actual words do. Once we form an emotional bond with a song, that feeling is incredibly hard to change. Bruce Springsteen can explain Born in the USA at every single concert. Thing can call every breath. You take a creepy stalker song in every interview. John Lennon denied the drug rumors until his death, and John Fogerty can point directly to the exact newspaper article that made him angry. It does not matter. The popular versions win anyway, kept alive by millions of fans who heard a great hook, felt something real, and chose to believe their own story instead of the actual lyrics. If you loved finding out the real history behind these tracks, subscribe for more deep dives and share this video with a friend who loves rock music.